internal discussion, but I know for sure that's just one example. But how many examples have you already given in ways that trauma manifests itself, and in ways that, you know, how anybody can experience it? It's very versatile, and I'm glad that it's coming into fruition, right? But I know that you have a big brain, so you're gonna tell us about this stuff, okay? We're gonna get technical now. All right. Can you tell us a bit about how trauma could affect the brain at a neurological level?
I love this. I love neuroscience. It's so much fun.
I know it is.
So you have to realize we don't have time to go into a lot of complex, but
of course,
the thing is, in a nutshell, you have your rational brain. Okay, well, no, let's start with when you're a baby. When the first part of the brain, it's the instinctive brain, the reptilian
cerebrum and cerebellum.
Yeah, right. The reptilian, which is at the back. That's the first part of the brain that gets developed near your spine, right? Then after that, that's like when babies like poop, eat, sleep, cry, basic, and all animals have this. The second part is the limbic brain or the emotional brain, which is in the middle of the brain, right?
So memory as well.
Yeah, that's mammals, right? Like so the first part is like lizards, snakes, and all that. That's the middle part. When you have emotional brain, it's the mammals, like the dolphins, the human, the monkeys, right? So we are emotionally reacting to things. It's great, but this is where we get stuck, and we'll talk about it. This is where a lot of us mammals will like fight and flight mode comes in. Am I gonna, when I get threatened, am I running away? Am I gonna fight, or am I gonna play dead? Right? A lot of mammals like elephants and zebras will play dead, because they're like, if I play dead, the person who's hunting me will think that they're playing dead and they'll go. But as humans, we have a hard time with that. Right? Playing dead for us sometimes looks like being numb. You don't feel anything. You just there. Right? I know you're thinking, and I'm thinking, what are you thinking? But the last part is the rational brain. That's the prefrontal cortex, right? That's the last piece that's developed in the human development. But it's also and this is the only thing that makes us different from other animals, because we can actually rationally think about stuff. This part of the brain kind of comes online after like 28, 29. It's fully developed is not until like 28, 29. That's why young people think they can rule the world. They're not ever going to die, because that part of like saying, making logic decisions, making like you shouldn't be doing this, those things don't come online later on, until the later on in life, right?
So, you know, before they used to say that part of the brain, well, first it was, 18 fully developed. Then they're like, wait a minute, I think it's 21. Then they're like, wait a minute, I think it's 25. Yeah. So it's showing that, just how long it takes for it to actually fully develop.
And we there's no one number, by the even now, you're right. Even now we don't have a number, we have a range now.
Yeah, exactly. What do? They gave up. They're like, okay, sorry guys, we can't do this.
Because the brain is so complex. But coming back to why we act the way we do, is all about our lovely emotional brain. Like our emotional brain is the brain center for why we get mad, why we cry, why we yell, why we beat up people. Because if as a young person, we haven't learned to regulate our emotion, or say someone is safe there for you, our emotional brain, the brain itself, its role mainly is to protect you at any cost. At any cost, it will protect you. So when something bad happens to you when you're young, right? You might use a coping strategy, like, for example, I love listening to music. Amazing coping strategy, right? You get something bad happens in life, you're like, okay, when I listen to music, it's great. I can calm myself, right? Great. You now go to university, you're in workplace, something bad happens to you. You can't, you don't like what the boss is saying. So what do? You shut down and you just listen to music. So the coping strategy that helps you deal with the stresses in life when you were young, when your parents was always fighting with you, is now becoming something that's a negative coping strategy, because you're not dealing with it. But the problem is our brain can't distinguish. When you're just feeling something, our brain can't distinguish between that happened long time ago and this is something different. It just thinks like, oh my God, Kavita is in danger. I must protect her. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do to protect her. right? So again, it's so interesting, the brain, like it cannot know that this was past and this is present.
Yeah, it's just a stimuli that it initiated a very great deal of emotional damage at one point, and
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. The
yeah,
brain's like, okay, that thing's a danger. You know what I
right. And
mean?
so,
Yeah.
and the point of like medication or therapy is to first of all give through psychoeducation, kind of talk about these things. It's not you, like, you know, the more I understand these things, the more I'm like, we really don't have a lot of control over these. It's the brain is telling you what to do. So to gain control, we have to first understand what's happening in our brain. Second thing is, part of getting control, emotional regulation, is to get the front brain back online. So when bad things happen to you, your front brain shuts down, your nervous system goes into parasympathetic and para and what is it?
Sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Yeah, right. It goes into those mode because it wants to just protect you. But we got to tell. So, but for it to say, hey, like this is not real danger. It's a perceived danger. It's not really, somebody's not really yelling at you. You might feel like it. You need the front part of the brain to be online, but you can't do it unless you have techniques to work on it. Does that make
So there are a
sense?
couple of ways we could, yeah, I don't know, of course. So here, some ways people can relate to this real, kind of recall when your frontal lobe is shutting down. If your hand is on a stove and it's on, it's gonna, like, your brain cannot wait for you to think if that's okay or not. It'll instantly react and just
Yeah.
move your hand, and then you'll realize it hurts, and then you realize, okay? So that's one way you can see how your fight or flight works. Another thing is too is if you've ever been scared and you had those moments where you're gonna hit your friend, it took your brain to stop it at that moment before you hit them. Sometimes not. By the way, that fist might go flying. You
Yeah.
know, we've seen
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
clips.
Yeah.
But if your frontal lobe in time could react to how you reacted there, then you'll stop that punch. If you have a fight response,
Yeah.
Otherwise, boom, and then you'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," you know, Jimmy or whatever their name is.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, those are
again, and go along that way, like say your house is on fire, the smoke detector goes on, you're like, oh my God. So if people are very traumatized with a lot of like uncertainties in their life, they're like, oh my God, the fire's on, you got to run, run, run. Because the only thing your emotional brain is like, oh my God, there's fire, you need to run. But if you are able to have some logicness, your rational brain on, you'll be like, well, let me just go check the kitchen. Let me see if everything is okay. You're like, oh yeah, the pot is burning. That's why it is. But for that to happen, you need to be able to have control over the front brain. And it's a perceived threat too. So the minute the alarm is on, your body's like, it's an actual threat, there's fire. It's not real fire, it's a perceived threat. And actual threat was important back in the days when we were hunters and gatherers, right? Because there's a tiger, you need to save your life, right? You don't have the time about perceived or not, it's actual threat. But now in modern time, our brain hasn't developed as quick as our modern time. So we have a lot more perceived threat than actual threat.
yeah, it's very maladaptive in that way.
Yeah, right.
It's
It is
gonna take some
very,
time for it to
unfortunately,
evolve,
that's
which
why
I
we
don't
get
know.
stuck. Yeah, exactly, right? Like,
Actually, epigenetics is a good example of the brain slowly evolving to be able to adapt to our modern day threats. But like you said, yeah, I mean, it's still kind of in a hunter-gatherer phase,
it is,
and we got a lot of threats nowadays.
and we need to work, especially with when we have been really bombarded with really bad things in our lives. It's harder, it's more work, but at the end of the day, if you don't get through it, it's so much more work to deal with it, right? And it's tough. Like it's really tough, and all of us go through it at certain levels, but sometimes some people have it harder, I think, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we were saying about I mean, there's always going to be nature and nurture, right? So, but we did discuss before that you will always have a biological and genetic disposition to how much resiliency you will have or what your baseline for your happiness level will be. So there are some things that you may not be able to control, but then afterwards it will be, that's where the nature part comes in.
So
You have to, or nurture part comes in, you grow it.
Yeah, exactly. You have the baseline, right? Everyone's baseline, but you can work on it
Yeah.
to get, like, I am probably predisposed to anxiety. I think I have a family,
Yeah,
but I
exactly.
can say, oh my God, I have no control over this. oh, I can work on it to become a better, maybe I won't be maybe as good as you, right? Because you don't have the predisposition, right? But my goal is it to be like you? Is it to just up my level so I can enjoy the things in life that I want to,
Exactly. To
right?
function. I agree. Yes.
If you want to hear more stories, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. To support more youth by youth led projects, visit us at youthspeak.ca, where you can donate and spread youth mental health awareness.
YouthSpeak Performance Charity. Speak, inspire, change.